So, good afternoon and welcome to episode 50 of the Renny Show. Oh my goodness, Jenny, can you believe it's episode 50? How did that happen?
It's nearly as old as me.
But not as lovely as you. So, welcome to anyone that is listening, whether that's live or on things like YouTube and the podcast channels later on. And a huge welcome. So we have a very exciting guest with us today. So today it is Shane Evans, coach, trainer, facilitator and author. He works with teams and leaders to create cultures where people feel valued, engaged and able to grow. His mission, very simply, is to help people lead themselves and live with more purpose, honesty and heart. Well, I don't know about you, Jenny, that absolutely resonates for me enormously. So welcome, Shane.
Absolutely.
Hello.
A man after our own hearts.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're really thrilled that you could join us today. So thank you for giving us your time. Welcome.
I feel like I've been invited to a birthday party. If this is episode 50, I feel like I'm the special guest.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, our birthday party. Happy birthday to us.
it's like the royal garden party, isn't it? Except we're not in a garden and there's no sandwiches. But apart from that, royalty is here.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Love it. So, Jenny, I'm going to hand over to you for the first question.
Fantastic. So, Shane, your first question is, why is what you do so important to you?
Oh, you've gone in there with a nice, gentle question. I see.
I like to ease you in gently. Yes.
God, I hate to think what's coming next. In okay, so why is what I do important to me? Is that the question? Well, I think a few years ago, when I was about quite a few years ago, 20-something years ago, 27 years ago, I was quite frankly lost. And I didn't know kind of which way to turn, what to do, or how to do it. And I kind of got into a habit of self-development. So I started going on courses, reading books. And I realized that some of the places where I was stuck, where I was blaming others, maybe playing a bit of a victim from time to time, I didn't need to do that because I could get myself out of my own mess. And sometimes, just having someone in my corner back then, someone to coach, mentor me, helped me, I guess, progress a little bit further and faster than I would have on my own. And I think now to be able to pay that forward, if you like, to be able to help other people and to see people's realizations when you do help them to become unstuck or become more empowered, or to help them with something simple in their life, or it feels simple from the outside and they're struggling with, it kind of means the world to me, because you think that you're making a difference for the people that you're working with, and not just people you work with, the people that you are surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. So I think having been through some stuff and getting to the other side, being able to help people in the same way means the world to me.
Brilliant. I think there are many coaches who would say that the reason that they do what they do comes from a similar experience. I know certainly that happened to me too. So yeah, absolutely resonate with me, and I'm sure it'll resonate with lots of our listeners. And it's probably a good time to say, if anybody listening wants to comment, has got any thing they want to say, then please feel free to give us your feedback. We love hearing it. Before we get on to your question, Rach, number 2.
Okay, so a bit of a topical one. Obviously, it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and all three of us are very much in the space where, just like you've said in your first answer there, we're all very aware of mental health, and it's something that does come up a lot in the type of work that we all do. So with it being Mental Health Awareness Week, can you share a tip that you've perhaps learned on your journey that has helped you at some point to protect your mental health, because that might help someone else that's listening.
Another deep one straight in. So actually, when I kind of got into things like psychology, I got really into positive psychology.
Yeah.
And of course, that works on the basis of doing more of what's right with people. And I think most people I know, when they struggle with their mental health, and I send lots of love to people that are struggling right now, if they're in depression or in stress or burnout or overwhelm or anxiety, whatever they are going through, they don't start to work on it until sometimes it's too late, right? Because they're in that dark space of, how do I get out? And I think sometimes as coaches, we kind of learn how to coach. And sometimes if you're helping someone, you've got to meet them where they are. And sometimes you meet up with someone and they're in a deep, dark hole. And you can either throw them an instruction booklet and, an IKEA make it yourself ladder and say, just get out when you're ready. Or you can, climb in there and sit with them for a little while, and you can get them out when they're ready. I think if it could be one thing, it would be, don't wait until it's too late to start to have the conversation. Start to talk about it or think about it or do something about it when you are in a good space. So to continue that kind of positive growth that you have. But it's tricky though, right? Because sometimes you don't realize what's going on inside your own head. And that's why, helping people with things like mindfulness or being more self-aware or exercising or whatever we're helping people with, that's the stuff that if they continue to do it, you know that they're going to be okay. They might have the dips, as we all do, because we're human. But I think if it was to do one thing, it would be to try your best to work on yourself when things are okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to this week's Mental Health Week, it's about community, right? And
Yep.
we're all surrounded by some amazing people. And I've never met you two in real life before, but you're both so inspirational. And to look for things like positive content on your Facebook feed, because that's the other thing, we're bombarded constantly by these messages, and if you read the news of what's happening in America, you're going to get more of that stuff. So looking for the light, looking for the good people in your life, realizing that you do have a community, even if you feel alone. I'm sure there are people that will help you, will listen. So reach out and build that community while you're in a good space, because it's the people around us that sometimes help us through when we least expect it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That really resonates what you've said from what I've posted today about my journey with mental health when I had my breakdown. And a huge part, I think, of what, I mean, it's many faceted, but, the keeping going till the point that I did break. Actually, when I look back, a big part of that was because of a sense of community. There was more to it than that. There was, a sense of professional pride that told me I had to keep going despite falling apart. But community was a really, really important part of what kept me going as long as I did. And then starting the healing journey, again, community was a really important part of that. The community I had around me, whether that was within the Air Force, within my family, my kind of various support networks, community was a huge part of that. And that feeling of belonging and being among people who might get it, even if they don't fully appreciate where you're at, they might just have a bit of an inkling. And I think trusting that other people will understand is something we're not always very good at as humans. We think we have to keep it to ourselves because, well, no one else is feeling like this. It's just me. I must be defective, and you keep quiet and you put the mask on. And actually, use that, like you say, use that community. And when you start talking about how you're feeling, it's so common to find lots of other people with the same or similar shared experience.
100%. We must be strong, right? That's a belief that we tell ourselves. We have to get through this. Yeah. Who am I to be like, I can't stop for 10 minutes, never mind stop for a day to recharge my own batteries. So sometimes I run well-being training. And if I ask people to shout out, give me a word that you think about when I say mental health, and things like depression, anxiety, stress, all of those things come out. We sometimes think that mental health is only it's gone wrong, when actually it can be some really healthy stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, if you stand in a training room anywhere in the country, in the world these days, and you go, have you got hands up if you've got a mobile phone? And everyone has, no one doesn't have a mobile phone, right? And you say to people, how often do you charge your mobile phone? And they go, well, I plug it in when I'm at my desk, and I plug it in overnight, or whatever they are. But they charge their mobile phone more often than they do to recharge themselves. And we're funny old creatures as humans, right? Because we think that we can go on, and we think that our mobile phone is more important than our own brain, our psychology, our mental health. And I think that's a funny realization for a lot of us most of the time.
Yeah.
I think we often do things, we wait until something's gone wrong rather than, it's a bit like, I always use the analogy of a new car. If you've got this fabulous new car, and you don't park it in a field, do you? You put it in the drive or the garage, and you polish it, and you put the right fuel in it, and you look at the service history, and you have it serviced, and you learn how it works, and you learn what it likes, and you have a you build a rapport and a relationship with that. And you look for the warning signals. So if a light comes on, then you address it. You don't just drive with it and just think, oh, hopefully it'll just go out eventually. You do something about it. And I think so often we wait until something's gone wrong before we deal with it. Whereas I think what you were saying was, actually, how can we, and positive psychology would fit so well in this, is that what can we do to maintain positive mental health? I wish they'd call it Positive Mental Health Week. I suppose it's mental health awareness, isn't it? But because there are so many things that we can do to help, even though we can't control what happens to us in life often. But what we can do is control how we respond to it. And I think, having had some fairly hideous life events over the last 8 or 9 months, I can attest to this. And strength isn't about carrying on and doing it anyway. It's about recognizing the things that you do to help you manage and increase your capacity to cope when things are tricky, whether it's reaching out to your community, whether it's the community of resources that you have within, whatever it is. It's about recognizing that actually, if you don't have it yourself, then somebody will be able to help. And we often see asking for help as a weakness, don't we? Whereas actually, I think all of us would agree that it's an incredible strength to go, help, I need some support. And if you ask,
No,
most of the time people give it.
absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that. I think the whole thing, physical health versus mental health, right? People tend to know that 10,000 steps, 8 glasses of water, 2,000 calories, 30 minutes of exercise will keep you kind of roughly healthy. It's not an exact science. But then if you ask a group of people what keeps you mentally healthy, there's kind of this awkward silence in the room because we feel like we should know it. I suppose the positives of something like Mental Health Awareness Week is we've got more people talking about it. And I think if we can talk more about how to stay mentally healthy, I think that's a really powerful and positive thing, and the whole self-awareness piece with our own mental health. There's a lovely video by the Conscious Leadership Group, and it talks about, it's aimed at leaders, but they offer a simple black line. And at any point, we can be above the line or below the line. And above the line is being positive. We know that we've got enough resources. We're healthy. We've got enough love, respect. We're curious. We're playful. But below the line, we feel in threat. We feel that there's not enough time, money, resource, love, energy, whatever. And I think we're hardwired as humans to go below the line. But if we could be aware of the fact, actually, I'm below the line for these reasons. I haven't been and spoken to my best friend for a couple of weeks. I need to get some stuff off my chest. I need to go for a walk in the outside. I need to get away from my laptop. If we realize we're below the line, we can actually physically do something, some really simple stuff to get above the line quite quickly. And I think the more that we talk about that and the more that we remind people of that, the better.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd love to talk to you afterwards about that, and we'll get that resource and we'll share it in the comments and the show notes, so that anyone listening can have a look as well.
It's a resource I use quite often, which brings us beautifully. Talking of resources, did you see that seamless segue there? Seamless. To our third question.
We genuinely haven't.
No, we haven't. And we never, the people who listen to this show regularly know there's no rehearsal goes on whatsoever.
No.
So our third question for you, Shane, is what inspired you to write your books? And I say books because I know your first book is already a bestseller and you're well into your second. So, and they have a common theme, don't they? So would you like to tell us a bit about your books?
What you mean? Well, this book, let's start with this book. It just happened to be there. Actually, so some of the backstory, and I shared this on Facebook, I think yesterday, is my grandfather wrote 3 books. And my grandfather, my tide, was my hero. I absolutely adored him and idolized him. He was, I suppose, a local celebrity where I was from in North Wales, because he'd written 3 books and he was part of a choir, and he'd been on Hugh Green's Opportunity Knocks, if you remember that.
I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I remember the reruns on YouTube. No, I'm only kidding. I remember Opportunity Knocks. I think in my day it might have been Bob Monkhouse that presented it. But anyway, I'm digressing. But he was, I suppose, a local celebrity when I look back at the time. But to me, he was just my tide. He was my idol. He was like my dad, you know. And he had an old-fashioned typewriter, and I must have been about 5 or 6, and I remember the ding, ding. Oh, damn it, I've made a mistake. No delete button, was there? Like, you go and find this Tipex and ding. I remember the sounds. I remember going to a local publishing house and having the books published, these boxes of books turning up. People come to the house to ask for them to sign a book for him. A really funny story is when we were going to the publishing house, we couldn't find him. All we knew that he'd stepped out of the car and stood in dog poo, and we just followed the trail of dog poo all the way to the publishing house, which was going up the carpet into the upstairs of the publishing house. Funnier things you remember, right? But anyway, he wrote 3 books. So I suppose the seed of being able to write, he was a poet, he was a Welsh bard. I suppose the seed of being able to write stuff was always there. It wasn't until he passed away, until it was exactly 2 weeks after my 18th birthday. And I went a bit wayward at that point. But I think deep down, I wanted to continue some sort of legacy for him. So I'd always written some stuff, the odd poem here and there. And then last year, I started to write a book on leadership. And I thought, this will be okay. It'll be in the background. I'll work out how to publish it or whatever. But again, you know, the nagging voice in me was, you can't write a book, really. You know, like, you didn't do too well in English or in school. Who are you to write a book? And at roughly about the same time, I realized that most of my clients that wanted to be better leaders were struggling to lead themselves. So I thought, well, actually, why you can go on Google and there's 55 million books or whatever about leading others. There wasn't that many about leading yourself. So I took a dramatic turn and thought, right, the first book's going to be about leading yourself. And I worked with Asher, who some of the viewers will know, and there's a group of us that get together, and amazingly talented people who are great writers. And I nailed down. I wrote the book on self-leadership, and it came out and ended up in the Amazon bestsellers list, which is as much of a shock to me as anyone else.
Well done.
That was 2 weeks ago. Thank you. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe now.
Do you want to show us it again, Shane? Show us it again. Show us it again. So
yeah, put it on the screen, and we will make sure a link to it is put in the show notes and comments.
This is available in all good bookstores, but actually it's available on Amazon, which is one of the main books.
Yeah, close enough.
And recently, I've got a son who's doing mock exams. I've got mock GCSEs. I've got a 12-year-old who's in that high school mess of I don't know what I'm doing, and a son that's 9 who, is getting talked to about SATs and things like that. And I think we put our young people and our teenagers under so much pressure and stress. And I won't talk about the standardized exam setting because I'll probably go off on a little ranting tangent. So I'm not going to go there. But I think if we could give kids, young people, teenagers a tool to help them lead themselves a little bit better, to realize that they've got so much power to, not make some of the mistakes that we've all made, right? And to give them just a little resource that's not very much monetary value, but we'll give them some tools, some stuff that we might coach adults on, but spoken to in a way that teenagers would understand. I think that'd be really cool. And it's about 99% there. Just going to do some tidying up and get covers designed and all of that other funky stuff. But the writing itself is mostly done. And it'd be great to be able to speak to some younger people about, not just my experiences, but our experiences as people that have been through the teenage difficult years.
Absolutely.
We've all been one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, exactly. if we can help the younger generation to build resilience from an earlier age, all to the good, that's great, right?
Yeah. I mean, some of the stats are out there now. Most of the jobs that will be here in 10 years aren't a thing yet. They haven't been invented yet. So we need to help keep, younger people to be resilient, creative, emotionally intelligent. Yeah. So the more we can do that, I think the better our future is.
Absolutely. Very exciting. So look out for, obviously, like I say, we'll put the link to the current book, and we shall very much look forward to seeing the release of the next one as well. Is there more to follow?
There will be a book on leading others as well at some point, because I've bloody done that work anyway, haven't I? So I think I've got to get that out at someone, because that was the initial commitment to myself, is I want to write a book about leadership because I'm passionate about it and I talk about it a lot. So I think I'd do myself a disservice if I didn't put it out there at some point.
A trilogy is a trilogy. It's a nice,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's obviously a lot less reading than Lord of the Rings, and I'm not quite at J.K. Rowling's level, but we'll take it, right?
Fortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Fabulous. Well, thank you for telling us all about that, and do look up Shane's books, folks, because they'll be well worth reading. So, Shane, it's time to throw things over to you. It's time for you to ask us a question. So what have you got for us? Well, actually, I've shared this on social media, and I'm getting some really good stuff which will help to be part of the second book. And I think, the intent is to put a small chapter in there of advice to younger people from us, older people. Yeah. So the question is, if you could go back and give your teenage self one piece of advice, what would it be and why? Wow. You want to go first, Jenny, and I'll get the question typed in on the screen.
I knew she was going to say that. So my piece, the thing that has consistently been most powerful for me, and I wish I had known it earlier, is the self-awareness piece, the personality trait, understanding yourself It's so easy when you're in many situations for you to point the finger of blame at other people. Much easier to do that when in fact, my advice to my younger self would be, look at you first, because you're often at least part, if not all, of the problem. So
Yeah.
I think that self-awareness is the gift that keeps on giving, and the earlier that we can give it to people, the better. I do some of my personality trait stuff in schools with sort of sixth formers, and they love it. They absolutely love it. It's such a powerful tool, and it. I think the why is because it's never ending. It's evergreen. It keeps on giving. You can never be totally self-aware. There's always another layer to investigate. There's always something else to go on. So I think that would be my piece of advice to my younger self and any other young people.
Good advice. I love that.
Awesome. I mean, mine very much resonates with yours, Jenny. Surprise, surprise, because we're often got quite a similar outlook on things. But in the same vein, my thing would be comparisonitis. Don't compare yourself with everybody else, because that can be so damaging. You know, even just obviously with the younger generation and us as well now, so attached to their phones and devices.
Yeah.
And there's so much comparison out there, whether that's what you look like, what you're getting in your test results at school, what you do outside of school. You know, there is just so much comparison, and we all know how damaging that can be when it makes you feel like you're falling short. And you know, it just adds to the levels of stress. I mean, you alluded to it earlier, Shane, the stats around young people and mental health are quite frankly frightening in terms of how many of them are suffering from anxiety. And I think comparing themselves to others is a huge part of that problem. Now, how you actually help that to manifest is another question entirely, I think, because teaching people who are still growing, learning, trying to work out who they are in the world, where do they fit in? And I think, you know, it's a whole nother question of almost how you get them to believe that it doesn't matter what everyone else is up to, just focus on your journey and your path and being true to who you are. You know, I wish there was a silver bullet so that we could make them all believe that, you know, they're absolutely great just as they are and they don't need to compare themselves. I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, oh, great point. Thank you very much, both.
Oh, our pleasure. Great question.
It was a great question.
Yeah.
So, Shane, where can people, because I know people will be inspired by this conversation, so where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? They can buy your book on Amazon. How else can they find you? Where can they connect with you? How can they become part of your community?
Oh, lovely question. Because, you know, we've talked about community is important, right? So the more, the merrier. I suppose the two best ways, probably Facebook or LinkedIn. I do a lot on there. Some sensible stuff, some serious stuff, some fun stuff. So if people enjoy a bit of inspiration, follow me on either of those. I feel like I'm really accessible to people. So on my website is actually just a list of ways to contact me. So I don't know if we could put the link to the website on. There's my phone number on there if people want to WhatsApp me, and I can reply to that. They've got to fight through a big advert to my book, though, to get to the good stuff, you see. So, but that is available to anyone. So probably the best thing is to look at my website, which is secoach.co.uk. And then there's a list of ways people can even book in time if they are struggling with mental health. Let's go back to, you know, the purpose of or the theme of this week. If people are struggling, there's a way to book. There's a book me link on my website that people can book in and have a chat. No strings attached. I'm not a salesperson. I would never sell anyone anything. And actually,
apart from your book.
Apart from my book, yeah, $6.99 available from all good bookstores. Well, Amazon. Somebody wants to test that. I was with a new client a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, people always say that you can get in touch." So they WhatsApped me when I was in the car on the way home. So I'd stopped in a service station, realised, and WhatsApped them straight back. So I'm real, like I'm a real person, and I will message people back as soon as they message me. So that's open and available to everyone.
Fantastic.
That's
brilliant.
The writing's coming on as we're speaking. That's pretty cool.
Clever, this stuff, isn't it? All this tech
she's
stuff.
magic. She's magic. She's magic, RH.
Well, I will make sure that also goes in the show notes and the comments as well, so that everyone can connect with you, Shane, and get the book and just promote having conversations with you, because why wouldn't we want that? So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you enormously, Shane, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us and to hear your insights. And we'd love to know what you think, folks. So put your comments. We'd love to carry on the conversation, don't we, Jenny?
We do.
Yeah. As always. Absolute pleasure.
We'll show you 100.
Oh, yes. That's a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, Shane. Thank you for your time. Take care of yourselves, folks. As always, we will be back here in a fortnight's time. So look out for your next dose of honesty and positivity that you will always get on the Renny Show. So take good care of yourselves. Be inspiring. Be brilliant. And we will see you all soon. Ta for now.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Oh.